Intersection — это аналитическая.
This is an analytical site where we publish the authors. They're not really journalists. They're experts, political scientists, analysts, sociologists, anthropologists, economists, who specialize in Russian studies. So the main purpose is to study Russia without any emotions. We publish them in 2 languages, in Russian and English. We came up with this idea in 2014 when it became clear that the field of what would be allowed in Russia would be gradually shrinking. At that time, amendments to law on blacklists, the so-called Lugovoy law, was adopted, which introduced political component in censoring the information and dissemination of the information on the internet. Yesterday, after this Lugovoy law, they blocked the website of the investigative journalism, Russian Gate. We're mostly focused on, analytics are not that intimidating as the government, as the investigative journalism, but in several years that our journal was published, we also faced attempts to block our website. It was not done by Roskomnadzor, but there were hacker attacks, DOS attacks, and serious hacker attacks. I'd like to tell you about the purposes of this project and about what came out of it. Anton will share the outcomes with you. First of all, we're not from Moscow, although we then went to Moscow. We're not journalists. We both finished international relations in schools. So we realized that people, especially from the regions, and are not journalists, they find it very hard to publish their papers, their works, in good Russian publications. Why? Because, regrettably, demand for experts, the younger generation of experts, are always keen, but when the publication makes the choice whether to publish a well-known, a renowned expert or a young, who nobody knows of, then, of course, the publications rather choose the former over the latter. The same says about publications in foreign media. If you're a young expert from the region, it has to do also to Moscow and St. Petersburg. You can't expect to be published in the foreign affairs of the Western publications. It's pretty hard. That is why we would focus mostly the young generation of experts, and we would immediately try to get them into the Western market. How? We translated their analysis into English. Professional English editor worked with them. Yesterday, part of the group met our English editor, Richard. And in this sense, yes, we have several success stories when young authors whose names we discovered and then would be further invited to attend other international sites, to speak there, to write reports on Russia, to write articles, and this way we're a bridge between the young generation of Russian experts and Western institutions. The second purpose of our work was about this, that the analysis existing on Russia in the West, regrettably, sometimes it's very much biased, let alone that the projects that those who target the Western audience, they're published in English, they're absolutely biased, absolutely. So we wanted to produce for English-speaking audience analysis of the situation of Russia without any censorship, without any emotions, but just dry facts and dry statistics. So I would like to share with you the system of fact-checking, because it was important for us that we should not have any bias, we should not carry any errors, mistakes. That's why we have a 3-stage system of verification of data. Each article that we receive undergoes 3 steps. First, we look whether I or Anton first review it, then 2 members of the editorial staff. We have renowned experts sitting on our editorial board from Germany, US, Poland, and Russia, and UK. Then, next stage is editorial fact-checking. Their system, pretty sophisticated, helps us stay away from mistakes, from making some errors in what we published and whatever. Well, thank you very much, Olga. On top of that, I would like to add you more detail to this picture. In point of fact, there's quite a simple website: 6 categories: economy, security, politics, culture, where we try just 6 like rubrics there, but you don't necessarily have to fit into one. We allow our authors to give them they can take up quite a broad set of, usually they ask me to, our authors come up with articles and other publications commission these articles from me. Try to make it fit into some categories and there's formats. There are quite a few, as Olga put it, very many approaches from different background. And some of them are more academic, others are more have more rather journalistic background. So formats may be unlike one another. It's good, especially that they're bilingual. Some authors originally write in English, and they need to be translated into Russian. And this also adds like stylistic as well as, sometimes very useful for Russian-speaking audience to get to know the opinion and analytical materials by Western experts. Well, this is just some information. Who writes it all? We don't really publish that much. Recently, it's about 3 articles a week at most. As Olga put it, it's not quite opinions, it's rather analytical information, analysis. So all materials are pretty interesting and exciting. They're all written to cater for this project exclusively. And sometimes it's very funny to fight the attempts of the authors who want to copycat their own earlier publications. So this is what it looks like. Mostly we see over 1/3 comes from Russia, and we're happy that this is growing because it was originally very, very difficult to find some Russians to be. And first and foremost, everybody remembers the United States ranked #1. In UK now they just are below, not because the number of readership has gone down, but because we see a growing number of Russians and hence Ukraine, because this is all pretty interesting. We often touch upon things that have to do with the war in Ukraine and Russo-Ukrainian relations and the context of Russian-Western relations, whatever has to do with the Crimea, Syria, and you name it. I attempted to make a profile of our readers, but these figures may be floating, but nevertheless we get this analytical product which is of greater interest. Again, if you believe Google Analytics to males, here it says average age. Again, attempting to make this profile, we first looked at the people who subscribed on our emails, and we tried to make up to categorize our readership. So this project allows us to get a profile of those who subscribe to our news and how are always reading this project. This is for the picture. We show you 5. This is something that is 5 top popular. On average, in point of fact, in the Russian version, there are 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 hits. In English, 3 or 4, and sometimes more. Some of these go beyond this, but on average, those figures we try to keep up. And again, it was pretty simple to, do the English version, and it was very hard to ensure organic traffic in the Russian language version. But with time, because of the efforts made by some authors who good opinion makers, we did it. Principle for this niche project, it was quite a success. Well, Olga was speaking about the editorial board. They take part in reviewing the articles that we receive. They're very much, diversified, and we are from Russia. Others are Poland, US, UK, and Germany. Hence, the project is somewhat international in terms of its essence, but again, most of our authors are Russian colleagues. Olga discussed the purposes well. The project was conceived to be an open site. That's why we take anybody any author, irrespective of their background, of their age. We very much favor young authors, our peers, plus minus. And we get excellent text from people who are perfectly unknown, but they just seek to start their research career. And there is no label, no renowned reputation. Doesn't need to have a degree if he wants to publish a text. Most importantly, all the texts are published on a fee basis. It means that we pay a fee. It's just a small amount, but everybody knows that it's not seen that often. Thank you very much. Olga wanted to say. Yes, I wanted to continue in our success. For the first time, in Russian language, our version got quite a number of hits because we are not in the format of the news. Even the texts, they're not that long read. That's needed as a slow read. Texts for thinking, which make difficult reading. When this text gets over 100,000 hits, it's not only a success for a niche project like ours, but even for larger analytical journals. Last year, we also first went offline. We published a book that is known Successful Failure, Russian After Crimea, which can be translated as what it is. We published it to the third anniversary, what the speaker calls annexation of the Crimea, and we tried to view 16 regions in how this influenced how these events related to Russia's aspects of life, 16 aspects of life, and how some sectors of domestic and foreign policy. It's available online on our website. Regrettably, it's published in English too. And this is where we'll leave 6 copies here. If you are interested, please come up and you can get for you a copy. Thank you.